subscribe, like, comment, and share to ignite the flames of vengeance. What does it take for a family to ruin a daughter's legacy in anger? Can she emerge from the flames of destruction with a hidden truth? Get ready for a story of suspense, lies, and ultimate victory. I sat at the reading of my father's will, and I witnessed my father rip a check for $99 million from my hands. He burned it. My mother's voice cut through the quiet like a knife. "This is what you get for cutting us off." Fire consumed the paper. Smoke writhed into the air like it was leaving me behind. Everyone was waiting for me to scream, fight, to fall apart. But I didn't. I didn't even flinch. I just smiled. Because what they burned wasn't real. My name is Sophia Reed. I am the granddaughter of a billionaire. That day, my parents believed they had ruined my future. What they did not know was that my grandfather had taught me for this day. He taught me to confront the family that betrayed me, to survive the flames, to emerge from the ashes with more than gold, with a truth. The marble entrance of Reed and Associates shone like a beacon, hurt to look at. My heels clicked on the floor as I entered, a noise that sounded like armor. Every tap reminded me I wasn't here to beg. I was here to observe. The receptionist didn't even glance at me. She gestured toward the glass doors. Inside, the conference room was packed. My mother, Elaine, sat rigid. Her pearls wrapped around her fingers. Her lips clamped tightly together. I wondered if they'd shatter. My father, Malcolm, reclined in his chair, his arms crossed. He seemed to be preparing for war. And my sister, Mia, the carefully groomed darling. She was wearing a cream-colored blouse too perfect for sorrow. A half-smile as if she'd already prevailed. Mr. Lawson, Grandpa's attorney for more than 30 years, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. He opened the folder with slow, deliberate motions. "We are here to respect the last wishes of Harold Reed," he stated. His voice didn't shake, not even when he looked straight at me. Before speaking the bequests out loud. "To Mia Reed," he started. "Jackson Hole cabin and vintage 1959 Gibson guitar." Mia blinked, obviously anticipating more. "To Malcolm and Elaine Reed, his son and daughter-in-law." His voice went on. "The heirloom grandfather clock, choice vinyl records, and $10,000 charitable donation in their honor." My mother uttered a sound, between a scoff and a gag. "That's not possible." Mr. Lawson didn't blink. He moved on to the next page. "To Sophia Reed, my granddaughter, my confidant. He leaves all his wealth worth $99 million. Silence. "Then what?" my dad growled. Mia's jaw spasmed. My mom got up, face reddening. "She left us. She doesn't deserve." Mr. Lawson went on without raising his gaze. "This will was signed, notarized, and filed personally by Harold Reed 3 months before his death. They didn't catch the rest." My dad pushed across the table, grabbed the check Mr. Lawson had just given me, hoisted it up as if it were fake. "You think this gets you back in?" Before I could say anything, he lit a match. The check curled and burned where the fire licked the edge. My mother tore open the envelope I'd clutched, ripping it until Grandpa's handwriting disintegrated into pieces. "This is what happens when you betray your family," she spat. I didn't flinch. I didn't plead. I just smiled. The kind of smile that doesn't reach your eyes, but keeps you grounded. Because what they incinerated wasn't what they believed. And what they never did get a glimpse of was the envelope still safely wedged in my jacket. The last actual conversation that I ever had with my dad concluded with him uttering, "If you go out that door, you don't come back in." I was 19. I had just rejected a full scholarship to his alma mater's business school. Enrolled instead in a tiny liberal arts college way upstate to learn visual design. He referred to it as a hobby with delusions. My mother did not argue. She simply stood behind him, lips pressed so tightly that they almost vanished. 3 weeks later, I returned home for Thanksgiving. Found my bedroom bare. The desk, the bed, even the bookshelf where Grandpa used to leave the notes between the pages. Gone. In their place, 2 gray armchairs. Faux orchid. and a framed picture of a lighthouse I had never seen. The door sign had been switched from Sophia to guest room A. Mia walked past me in the hallway and giggled. "Don't get so dramatic. You weren't using it anyway." They didn't cut me off completely. First, little things. Overlooked birthday cards. Missed calls. Then the rent check from my parents didn't arrive. When I called to inquire, my mother let out a sigh and said, "Actions have consequences, Sophia. You wanted independence. Now you have it." I would have lost the apartment if Grandpa hadn't intervened. He wired the same amount 2 days later. No questions asked. Then the money came in a quiet beat. Not too much, never flashy. Just enough to keep the lights on and the heat going. With it came letters in his uneven, calligraphic hand. He never blamed me for going. He never pleaded with me to return. But in each sentence, there was something more than either. He saw me. The last one I ever received was 3 weeks before he died. It read only, "Survival isn't weakness. It's the first proof of strength." I folded that letter into my wallet. Carried it through all the job rejections. All the silent holidays. Each night spent acting like I didn't care. I wore it still. Even as the remains of the false check grew cool on the table before me. And my hand crawled into my coat to feel the actual envelope there. The first thing I did when I reached my apartment was lock the door behind me. Slip out of my heels. My legs were shaking. But not with fear. More like exhaustion contained too long. I put my coat over the kitchen chair. Pulled out the envelope that Grandpa had given me a month prior to his death. He'd handed it over in a secluded booth at Hillstone Diner. Covered in a cloth napkin as if he was handing over a relic. "Don't open it," he said, "unless they burn it." And they had. I cracked the wax seal. Carefully unfolded the contents. A single check very similar to the one that had disintegrated into ash before me mere hours ago. Same number. Same signature. But with this one, a notation in small red print. Non-negotiable copy. My hands did not shake. I flipped the check over. Discovered a small USB drive stuck to the back. Along with a note in Grandpa's blocky handwriting. "Let them burn that. Then open the actual file." Plugged it in. There was no loading screen. No password request. Just one folder named Inheritance. It contained a PDF version of a form for transferring a trust. It was signed, witnessed, processed through a firm I didn't know. The account number ended in numbers I'd memorized as a kid. His birthday spelled backwards. The money was real. The transfer had taken place weeks before. The check they burnt wasn't a decoy. It was bait. I sat back in my chair. The silence in my apartment was like velvet. This wasn't about them anymore. It hadn't been for a while. Grandpa hadn't just trusted me. He'd anticipated their response. Step by step. And now so would I. The next morning I attempted to check my bank balance. Part habit, part reassurance. The screen blinked once. Then again. Before an error message flashed. Count not found. I tried a different card. Declined. I refreshed the login screen. Typed everything slower. As if accuracy could resolve the glitch. Still nothing. Initially I had thought it a security lock. Perhaps a fraud flag for yesterday's activities. But when I phoned the bank, the guy on the phone sounded uncertain. "I apologize, Miss Reed," he said, typing keys out of sight. "Our system has your account flagged as inactive. Deactivated, technically." My mouth felt dry. "That's an error." He hesitated. "It was stamped by the registrar's office 2 weeks ago." I hung up before I could lose my voice. The DMV corroborated it an hour later. The woman behind the glass blinked at her screen, frowned, said, "You're marked as legally dead. Death certificate on record under your full name, Sophia Reed." Her voice was flat, but her eyes shot up at me with pity. "You'll have to file a correction. That can take months." The clerk's voice receded as I exited into the cold. It was numb. As though someone had rolled back the edges of the world. Exposed the fact that everything I believed to be real could disappear. A woman stood across the street, half hidden under a line of nude-branched trees, her sunglasses too big for the gray horizon. She had on a pale blue silk scarf tied once around her neck, the same scarf my mother said the dry cleaners lost 3 years before. She did not smile. She did not look away. She was staring. I blended into the throng of foot traffic. Walked without thinking. Not quickly but purposeful. When I made the turn, she vanished. Back in my apartment, I opened the drawer containing old letters, spread them out like breadcrumbs. I wasn't merely disinherited. I was being erased. Gently, silently, completely. And someone was sitting in wait to make it stick. I opened the laptop, removed the USB from its sleeve, gazed at the folder Grandpa had titled Inheritance. Somewhere inside was the next step. The brass key had been sitting in my nightstand for years, wrapped in the same worn handkerchief Grandpa gave it to me in on my 18th birthday. I never asked what it opened. He just said, "You'll need this someday when you're ready to claim yourself." That day had come. Langford Private Vaults sat behind an unmarked door, near the edge of the historic district, located between a boutique wine store and a worn-out bookstore. The woman at the reception glanced once at the key, looked at her records, took me down a deserted hallway without questioning. The air became increasingly cold the deeper we moved, until we finally arrived at a small room filled with metal drawers. "Box 17, she said. Opened the drawer and pulled it out. He nodded, waited until she closed the door behind her before reaching in. A black fireproof folder rested on the ground, its surface cold and smooth. I gradually opened it. The first page was an authenticated cashier's check. Real this time, with the seal of the bank embedded within the paper. $38 million payable to me. The second group of papers weighed more. Notarized deeds to the land conveying all ownership of the underlying property of the family estate. And then another. Stock certificates of Reed Carroll Holdings. All voting shares. All executive powers. My name was signed across each. At the bottom, a flash drive in a velvet pouch. Back in my apartment, I inserted it into my laptop. Clicked the single file within. Grandpa's face filled the screen. He looked older than I recalled, sitting in the sunroom with light spilling over his shoulder. "If you're seeing this, Sophia," he said slowly, but clearly, word careful. "Then they did what I feared they would. They attempted to erase you." He leaned forward just a bit, eyes weary but sharp. "You were always the quiet one, the one who noticed everything, felt too much, asked for nothing. That's why they were afraid of you. That's why I believed in you." He stopped. "This is not just money. It's memory, legacy. And if they attempted to burn yours down, this is how you return." The screen went dark. I knew precisely where I had to go next. I discovered the envelope taped under the peephole of my front door. Plain white. No stamp. No writing other than one line in neat block print. They did not destroy the actual check. Checkbox array at Langford Security. There was no signature. No suggestion of who left it. Just stillness on the other side of the door. I sat at the table for a very long time, looking at it, then picked up my laptop. Langford had more than a single vault location. Box Array was not publicly listed, but I knew the name. Grandpa used to tease that it was where they stashed the real bones. I accessed the estate email established at the time of the trust transfer. Located a message I had not seen previously. The subject line was blank. Body simply a sentence. "They are not going for the money. They're going for the signature." There was a single attached document. An unsigned asset transfer form. At the top Reed Carroll Holdings. Below that a second type. This one signed. My name was on it. But the signature wasn't mine. They'd forged it. They were selling the company. I opened the company's internal dashboard. Access Grandpa had established months earlier. And there it was. Transactions. Proposals. Asset reassignments. All movements authorized under my name. While my official status was deceased. I was more than disinherited. I was a loophole. Convenient silence. They thought they'd stolen everything. But they left a trail. Floppy, bold, based in arrogance. The type that thought no one like me would ever return. Reached over to grab Grandpa's flash drive for the second time. Opened a folder marked Charleston Land Archives. My name was on each plot. I knew where I was headed next. The leaseholder's name was W.M. Trill. A name Grandpa also used to get fishing licenses and antique record sale auctions. Joe, he said, when Marek, like the flower that keeps growing where it's not supposed to. I recalled that on the drive out. Beyond the city limits. Across rusty farmland and abandoned lots. Until I rolled up to a low row of storage buildings. Located number 19B. The lock snapped open with a little brass key from the velvet pouch. The air within was stale, but not untouched. A single metal shelf along the far wall. In the middle, as if left for me to discover, was a black fireproof briefcase. Inside a manila folder was my original birth certificate. Not the revised one with the surname of my stepfather. This one only bore mine. Serafina let win. No hyphen. No revision. Then the letters. 12 altogether. Each written in Grandpa's unmistakable hand. Most of them dated within weeks of important family milestones. My college graduation. My parents' revow. The Christmas I spent by myself. He had written them but never sent them out. One line was written often. They won't erase you. Not while I'm still standing. My voice shattered the quiet under the letters. A notarized will there. Dated after the date I was supposedly dead. His handwriting was firm. Intentional. In it I was left sole beneficiary. Not Collier. Not Everett or Let. Me. But what froze my breath was the deed. Wynn Estate, Charleston, South Carolina. Ownership. Serafina Let Win. My fingers swept across the embossed seal. I hadn't inherited a house. I'd inherited the foundation. The ground under their control. And they didn't know. Screwed down into a rusty plastic chair beside the door. Held the folder to my chest. Felt my name shape for the first time in years. I wasn't a ghost. And they didn't know I was already walking back out the door. The one that they thought they closed. Sylvia Orton did not have much to say when I presented her with the briefcase. She only opened it. Leafed through the papers with keen eyes. Said, "We'll move quickly." There was no wonder in her voice. Thick certainty. As if she'd witnessed enough family betrayals to know when the paper trail burned. We filed the appeal in 48 hours. The hearing would be Monday. The courthouse reeked of waxed floors and outdated decisions. I wore black. Not for grief. But because armor doesn't always make a sound. Thick parents walked in together. Flanked by a young attorney in a too-tight suit. And a loose smile. Collier followed behind them. Lips glossed. Phone in hand. They did not glance at me. Judge Kinley sat. Famous for abrupt sentences and an intolerance for drama. When our case was read, he nodded in the direction of Sylvia. She stood poised and measured. "We are here to challenge the administration of the estate of Marek Wynn," she said. "On the grounds of forgery, coercion, and suppression of identity." The opposing attorney rolled his eyes. "Your Honor, my clients are the beneficiaries as per the documents. Any efforts to change the will after death are not only unjustified, they're emotional." Sylvia clicked her tablet. "Your Honor, the deceased had foreseen this." With one click the lights went off. The screen behind the bench glowed. Grandpa's face surfaced. "If they're seeing this," he stated. His voice was firm. "Even. It means they tried to bury her." He paused. "Let the record reflect I altered the will willingly, with no duress. I left Serafina as sole heir because she deserved it. Because she suffered." The courtroom fell silent. Collier's mouth flew open, then snapped shut. My mother went white. My father shifted as if to jump in. But Judge Kinley held up a hand. "Enough." He addressed them. His tone was icy. You didn't merely attempt to deceive this court. You attempted to annul a human being. Then he looked at me. This court recognizes Serafina Wynne as the sole legal heir to Merrick Wynne's estate. The respondent's assets are to be frozen pending further investigation. Exhaled. Not from relief, but release. The damage was done. Now came the reckoning. Kalia texted twice before I answered. The first message was short. Please. The second was longer. Clumsier. Can we just talk? Just us. Like before. I agreed to meet her at a cafe near the courthouse. Neutral ground. No history attached. She was waiting when I got there. Stirring a coffee she hadn't consumed. Her smile shook when she noticed me. I didn't know, she said before I could sit down. About the death certificate. About the will. They informed me it was a routine form. I just signed where Dad instructed me. I did not say anything. I put my phone on the table. Green-black. But recording. I swear, Serafina, I didn't mean for any of this, she said. Her voice broke. I didn't know they'd take it that far. I thought we were just fighting for what was ours. Whose was yours? I asked her. She winced. I mean, I didn't think you'd fight. You always just walked away. That was true. But I wasn't the girl who walked away anymore. I'm sorry, she whispered. I was afraid. I thought if I didn't cooperate, they'd exclude me too. I saw her wipe away a tear on the sleeve of her pricey coat. It wasn't that I didn't think she felt regret. I just didn't care if she did. No threats, no fury, just silence. I stood up, tucked the phone back in my pocket, walked away without glancing back. Her voice trailed me halfway across the cafe. But I didn't turn around. Outside, the air carried the scent of faraway rain. I cinched my coat tighter, walked not towards the past, not even towards revenge, just forward. Waiting in my mailbox was the last document Grandpa had left behind. Stamped in bold, transfer of deed, effective upon confirmation. The courthouse steps were more subdued than I had anticipated. No cameras, no confrontation. Only the sound of my boots clicking steady against worn concrete as I descended. In my hand the deed. My name written in bold letters below the seal of the county and the estate. No longer doubt. No longer pretense. I stopped short of the final step. Turned around. Confronted the building I'd battled so many years to be heard within. I stood with the deed held up in front of me. Took a solitary photo. No smile. Just quiet. The caption I wrote was straightforward. They attempted to incinerate the legacy. I inherited the foundation. Then I turned my phone off. Slipped it into my purse. No victory dance. No announcement. No need. I walked 5 blocks in silence to the small brick studio I'd closed on 2 days earlier. A modest space with tall windows and scuffed floors. Tucked between a florist and a forgotten laundromat. It wasn't much yet. But it was mine. I unlocked the front door. Stepped inside. Reached for the envelope Grandpa had left in the vault. The one marked "Start Here." Inside were 3 things. A hand-drawn sketch of the studio's blueprint. A folded business license application. Already half-written in his own hand. And a note with 4 words underlined. Make something they can't erase. I sat cross-legged on the dusty ground. The gravity of everything I'd lost and gained settled over me. Like dust after a storm. This wasn't revenge. It wasn't even justice. It was the start. And I was ready. Strength stands in silence and in resilience, building a legacy that no fire can burn.